Shadow Show.
Shadow Show.
Shadow Show.
Shadow Show.
Shadow Show. I mean, how do you feel about Willow being in here in a locked room? You right now are in a locked room with Willow, and Willow wanted to be sitting behind me, but now Willow wants out and the door is locked. And Jessica is delighted by you being trapped in a room with Willow. She's got a giant smile on her face.
I'm pretty sure the door is not locked, Dan. That's against fire code.
The door is closed. It's not locked. The dog can't get out, and
well,
you have.
I can just open this door right now.
Okay, but you're busy working.
Every closed door is a locked door to a dog.
Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show.
I mean, that's not true. Yeah. Have you seen the dogs that climb up on their hind paws and open the door?
Yes, I've seen it.
Juju Smith-Schuster's dog, too.
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Is every closed door a locked door to a dog? Tony, it's nice to hear your voice.
Thank you.
I heard you in the makeup chair. You are really dreading a baby shower. I think, put it on the poll as well at Le Batard Show. Do all men dread baby showers?
Women too.
Do all people dread baby showers?
We don't say this out loud. What if his family listening, wife listening, whatever? Why?
She doesn't listen. She doesn't listen.
I know, but this is one that we'll get back to her.
You think so?
Yeah.
Of my dread of the baby shower?
Yeah. Have you told her you dread it?
No.
Okay, so then
It's
you
been
can't
a silent.
say it on
It's
air.
been a silent dread
Yeah.
of the baby shower, but it's more so the dread of the weekend because I got a lot of stuff to do this weekend. Baby shower is one of them, and I want the baby shower to be like higher on my list. The issue is it's not. It's kind of like third or fourth on the list of things I got to do. This
Really?
weekend. Yeah.
You're dreading this weekend.
Yeah, it's a long
because I'm
weekend.
looking forward to it.
So am I. I'm
Because
just
we're
saying.
going to Chicago. You
it's a
can
long
meet up
weekend.
with us. Joe's
Yes.
on weed. God bless football. Tony's going to be there.
I have FOMO. Not for the baby shower, no offense.
Well, come. No,
okay.
nothing's stopping any of you from coming. Just come along.
It's
Well,
far.
Lack of money.
Well, I mean, Kristen's coming. You can come.
Okay.
Dan, you coming?
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. Yeah. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls better tell me I'm awesome. Yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. You can't go on, man, forget my peace. You take the west, I'll take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Man, so tough, but man's keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls, better tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
That was a fun sports night, huh? All you needed was a couple of games there. You got Kirk Cousins going crazy. So which is it? Is it LOL Lanta or is it Kirk Cousins? I said that wrong. What is it? LO Lanta? How do we do that? LOL Lanta? What are you? You're laughing at me, but you're not helping me with the correction. You're just laughing. So how should I have said that?
No, you got it, Dan.
Okay, thanks for all the help, Amin. I appreciate it.
It's one of those in text only situations.
There it is.
Right?
Thank you.
Okay, so it's LOL Anta and Kirk Cousins primetime. One of them had to give, right? Kirk Cousins is now good in primetime. This is what we're doing. 500 yards, felt a little college football out of nowhere. And there was so much in that game. A face mask that wasn't called. How do you lose that game if you're Tampa? You got 1st and 10. You got the ball at the 28-yard line. You shouldn't have intercepted the ball. Just knock it down. You get it at the 20. You go back for it. You're up 3, 1st and 10, 1 minute and 44 seconds left in the game. How do you lose that football game when you're on their 28-yard line? It seems impossible.
It's almost like a riddle. It's like this team didn't win. And you're like, wait, what? How?
Atlanta's, I don't know if you guys have been watching this, but the last few games that Atlanta has played are crazy, okay? It's like they've got a 1% chance of winning. They've got a 5% chance of winning. They've got a 26% chance of winning. And the odds of winning all 3 of those games like they have, like 1 in 8,000 for them to win all of those games. And they lost one in there against Kansas City, turning the ball over twice in the red zone. Like, everything they're doing is crazy. And that was the second most interesting game last night, because baseball and what the Mets did, making New York go crazy, was huge fun. Pete Alonso, in the most historic game, Pete Alonso does something no player has ever done in baseball. No, it's never been done before, where you're trailing in the 9th inning of a winner-take-all game and you hit a home run that takes the lead. That's never happened before. I couldn't believe it when I read that stat, that Pete Alonso was doing something that had never been done before.
I was anti-baseball until that helmet slam. That was pretty crazy. That was a moment.
Can you guys get for me, just so people see where this Met season has been, can you just get me a montage before we play the calls and show you some of New York going crazy? Can you guys just get for me some of how it is we've covered this Met season by just checking in with Keith Hernandez, Ron Darling? Is it Gary Cohen that does the game for the Mets? They have been a sad broadcasting team, and all of a sudden the Mets matter and are electric, and we've played. The way we covered the Mets this year was just to make fun of them and to tune into their sad broadcasting team. Just give me a montage of some of that sadness.
Mets have lost 5 games this year that they led after 8 innings. That is an enormous number. Trying not to make it 6. That's driven to center field. Back goes Bader, going back near the wall. It's out of here. Ketel Marte turns this game around with his second home run of the day. A 2-run shot to center, and the Diamondbacks go in front 5-4.
This was a bomb. That's way up the backdrop.
A 3-run triple for Mike Yastrzemski makes it 7-2 San Francisco. And the Giants have scored 5 times in the 10th.
Fastball belt high out over the plate. Just couldn't get there. Boy, oh boy. Feels like the sky is falling.
It has felt like that virtually every day for the last month.
Good grief.
Well, we'll be here when the game starts, and until then, you guys just, get the snacks that you can and try and keep nourished.
So that's where the Met season was. And then last night, they're doing things that no team has done.
They're the first team in MLB history to clinch a postseason berth and win a playoff series in games in which they were trailing in the 9th inning or later. They played 5 games in 4 days and won a playoff series and clinched a playoff berth in that same stretch. This was one of the best weeks in Mets history, for any team.
Come on, man. I hate these hyper-specific stats. The first team to ever, when the temperature was 72 degrees. And
this isn't that complicated. They were losing in the 9th, and they won a game, and that's crazy.
Okay, no, that's
in modern baseball.
That happens all the time.
You don't have to make it to the first team ever. Who cares? Yeah, because we didn't have wild cards until 20 years ago or 30 years ago, excuse me. That's why, right? It's not because in the 150 years of baseball that's never happened. It's because clinching a wild card playoff berth was not a thing.
Hold on a second, though.
Clinching a playoff berth.
Or whatever.
I mean, Pete Alonso's the first player ever to hit a go-ahead home run 9th inning or later when trailing in a winner-take-all game. That's the first time that's ever happened.
It's just so hyper-specific.
But it's a winner-take-all game, and it's the 9th inning, and it's never happened before.
Trailing, well, and that, and okay, all right. Oh, wow.
If a guy hit a game-winning buzzer beater in a winner-take-all game to advance to the next round, it had become the first guy ever in a winner-take-all game to advance to the next round, we'd be losing our minds over that player. But this isn't a big deal.
I don't think we'd be losing our minds.
You're adding winner-take-all games also.
Right.
The more teams that are in, the more winner-take-all games there are, the more likely something like this is going to happen eventually.
Wow. This is our nation's oldest sport, and you're just poo-pooing the stat.
I'm poo-pooing the stat. You know how I know? The show is poo-pooing the stat. You know how I know? You guys dropped that, didn't play no music, no fanfare, no stat
It's
of the day.
amazing. Well, let's
Stat of the
okay.
day.
Stat of the day, huh?
Look at what you're poo-pooing. This is the enthusiasm, and Amin's good for this. He'll poo-poo a celebration. Like if you're having a big celebration, everyone's dancing, having a good time. Hey, there's Mr. Poo-poo. There he is. He's poo-pooing in the punch bowl. Look at what's happening here in a bar. In New York, before we go to Citi Field and before we go to the call of this thing that you're poo-pooing. I think it's that Amin doesn't care about baseball. I think if anything, this equivalent happened in basketball and we were doing this to him, he would get really mad about it.
No, I love that your evidence is a video of drunken New Yorkers. Oh, wow. The drunken New Yorkers overreacted? No, that never happens.
You are one.
No, I'm not.
All right, so let's go to Citi Field, and again, they're not playing at Citi Field, so the Citi Field is full of people, which is striking in New York to see it happen. Not quite full. Is that what you're going to object to? Go ahead and play this. They're watching on the giant scoreboard in center field.
It's a nice scoreboard. I'll give him that.
Is it that you don't like to see New Yorkers happy? Is that what it is?
I love that we bleeped out, oh shit, but then he yells, mother bleeper! Like, we're just going to let that one rock, number one. Number two, this is like when Jeremy said they're holding up babies. And
that was awesome, too.
Yeah, just a note, the game was not played in Citi Field, so it was full of people watching a game on the Jumbotron that was being played in Milwaukee.
Did I say that incorrectly?
No. We just said we were in
a road
Citi
rally,
Field.
Dano.
Yeah. Regardless, they have to pay Pete Alonso now, right? Just because that one moment, because like he wasn't great.
To Mean's point, though, like I had to read it a couple times to see like what it actually was that he did. He hit a home run late, okay, but then it was like a paragraph of things. Like I was like, oh, so he hit it tying, going to, in the ninth, but also to go ahead, okay. Yeah, it was just a long
Guys,
sentence.
they were down in the ninth. It's a winner-take-all game. A guy hits a home run to take the lead in the ninth and win the series. That's dramatic and huge.
Baseball's been around for 200 years. It's never happened before?
It's never happened
that's
before.
wordiest.
When they're trailing. It's happened in tie games, but not when you're trailing. Like
this first round is really what waters it down, I think.
Okay, I'm going to explain this a different way. It's hard to ever hit a bigger home run.
No, this is not one of the biggest home runs
Kirk
in
Gibson,
history.
are you kidding me?
Thank you.
In
Exactly.
a playoff game, it is hard to ever hit a bigger home run. I'm not saying there aren't bigger playoff games. I'm saying that in a ninth inning,
Bill Mazeroski.
I have to say, I feel insane right now. Tony,
they don't like baseball.
But we're
enough.
putting this on the same level as Joe Carter. Like,
No,
come on,
it's not
get
a
outta
World
here.
Series.
Kirk Gibson couldn't even walk, man.
That's right.
Billy, we would happen in the World Series. It would immediately it would skyrocket right to the top of the list of biggest home runs ever hit if it had happened later in the season.
Question, this home run or Aaron Boone in like 2003?
Ooh.
That's against the Red Sox. That's also a winner-take-all game. It was a Game 7. They weren't trailing. It was tied.
I'm asking you. You're like, this is one of the biggest. Which do you think is a bigger home run?
I mean, that is a good point. There are more rounds than ever now in baseball. Like, is this watered down because it's
Guys, this is a winner-take-all game. They're losing. If he doesn't get a hit, the season can end.
Yeah.
That could be it. The only time it's ever happened where someone was trailing in the ninth inning and they hit a go-ahead home run was yesterday. Ever. The pressure's insane.
Yeah.
Okay.
It would have been his last at-bat as a Met.
But I would say this, they set themselves up for that moment. If they weren't losing, they wouldn't have been trailing at the time. So they really are kind of lobbing themselves up to have this moment.
You build your own platform. You build your
Like,
own
you know how
pedestal.
you can't create your own save in baseball by giving up runs and then it becomes a save opportunity. Same thing. Like, had they not blown a lead and been trailing, they wouldn't have set themselves up for this moment that's never happened before.
Good point,
The real
Billy.
ones don't trail.
Yeah.
Exactly.
To Amin's point, Game 7, 0-3 ALCS, Aaron Boone steps up to the plate against the hated Boston Red Sox in extra innings.
Against him.
And what's the score?
It's a tie game. It's a tie game, and it's the last at bat. He's in the bottom of the ninth. The season's not going to end if he makes an out.
So is the Patriots come from behind win in the Super Bowl against the Falcons not a big deal because they let themselves trail 28-3?
Yeah.
No, it's not a big deal because there wasn't a home run.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Let's play some more sound here that Amin can poo-poo. Let's play the jubilant Mets call of what was a historic home run, whether Amin thinks it is or not.
Williams sets. Here's the pitch. Swinging a fly ball to right field. Pretty well hit. Frelick back at the wall. He jumps. It's gone. He did it. He did it. Pete Alonso with the most memorable home run of his career. Pumps his fist as he rounds second. It's a 3-run homer. He's given the Mets a 3-2 lead. They all pour out of the dugout. Alonso on his way to home plate. They're waiting for him. He hits the plate. He is first congratulated by Nimmo. Hugged by Lindor. There are a dozen Mets waiting for him outside the dugout. Pete Alonso keeps this fairy tale season going with the fairy tale swing of his career. 3-2 New York.
Devin Williams had never allowed an opposite field home run to a right-hand hitter, ever, in his entire career. No one had been skilled enough to hit an opposite field home run from the right-handed side against Devin Williams. And in that circumstance, one in which no one had ever hit a home run, Pete Alonso does it. That stats courtesy Cespedes Family Barbecue.
That sound, excuse me, I'm getting emotional, is courtesy of WCBS 880.
I would say this. First of all, the sound proves my point. He doesn't say the greatest home run ever. He doesn't say the greatest home run even in Mets history. He says the greatest home run of Pete Alonso's career, which it is. Okay,
We can give him that. But also, technically, doesn't count as a home run in his career because postseason stats don't count.
There you go.
Let me play the Spanish version of this as well, just to try and get Amin excited in a different language.
3 bolas, 1 strike.
Ahora, si viene 3-1 por ahí, Pile va a tirar.
Ya se prepara, viene el lanzamiento, batazo grande, elevado por la parte derecha, la bola va atrás, llega atrás, lleva color, lleva sabor. Home run, hasta la vista, baby. 3-2 se ha puesto el partido. Los Mets están arriba. Rebelión de última hora de los New York Mets.
Okay, all right. You
little Dracula at the end.
A little Dracula. There was a little. Let's play the whole thing again because a soccer game broke out. A goal was scored in the middle. This is courtesy of ESPN 1050. But yeah, for some reason, he wanted to suck your blood at the end.
3 bolas, 1 strike.
Ahora, si viene 3-1 por ahí, Pile va a tirar.
Ya se prepara, viene el lanzamiento, batazo grande, elevado por la parte derecha, la bola va atrás, llega atrás, lleva color, lleva sabor. Home run, hasta la vista, baby. 3-2 se ha puesto el partido. Los Mets están arriba. Rebelión de última hora de los New York Mets.
That sound that color commentator made, like,
Yeah, we're going to find that sound.
Per Sarah Langs, this is teams were 7-105 when trailing in the 9th inning of a winner-take-all game. They were 2-82 when trailing by 2 or more runs. And then last night, Pete Alonso hit a 3-run homer and changed that forever. And we're just going to, not a big deal?
Again, I asked the question. I noticed that you very expertly, very judiciously avoided my question. Bigger home run, Aaron Boone or that one?
Okay, but here's the thing. No, Aaron Boone's home run was the bigger home run, the more memorable
Correct.
home run. But this will be a home run that the Mets fans will remember forever. There are bigger home runs, but this was an enormous home run, I mean.
Yeah, because they don't have shit to remember.
It's the most clutch home run.
For the Mets.
Maybe ever, given the circumstances. You get out, your season ends. There are no home runs that anyone has ever hit that have changed that.
I think he might be right on the idea that it's not just the biggest home run of Pete Alonso's career, that it might be the most memorable home run in Mets history. I think I'm going to think about this for a second. But
They
I don't
need to go on a run, though, because if they get swept in the next round, this game's completely forgotten.
I don't know, man, because Robin Ventura hit a grand slam single in the playoffs in 1999.
They also are on a run right now because the White Sox became the losingest team in MLB history and exercised the demons of the New York Mets.
We revisited
and
that.
Grimace.
And maybe they didn't, actually.
And also
though.
Pete Alonso has a lucky pumpkin, I read.
Roy, please explain to me the Grand Slam single by Robin Ventura.
Yeah, so the bases were loaded, obviously, grand slam from Robin Ventura, but he wasn't able to complete the entire turn around the bases because he was mobbed at second base.
Mobbed at second base, Dan. They wouldn't even let him go around. I remember that game. It was a huge deal because he bases loaded. He knocked that shit out the park. But you guys are gonna remember Pete Alonso. Come on, man.
That was Game 5 of the NLCS.
I want to compare this, and this is always funny to me. When you get the jubilance, all of that jubilance, and now a sad Bob Uecker. Roy, can you please tell me how old Bob Uecker is? Bob Uecker is still out here doing it. On the losing end of this, there is a Brewers team that is crestfallen today because they'll remember that home run for a long time.
90.
Wow. Bob Uecker is 90.
He shouldn't be doing these games.
90 years old.
He won't remember it for a long
Well,
time.
and it's not that. It's just like, we shouldn't put him through this.
No, you're right. He should be the president.
Okay.
Let's play the sad sound of Bob Uecker at the end of their season as he realizes at 90 years old what he's witnessing.
Well, New York, down. They did it. And the crew will have it end here tonight.
Really a crushing end to what was a fabulous season for the Milwaukee Brewers.
I'm telling you, that one had some sting on it. Milwaukee Brewers baseball has been brought to you in part.
Oh, it's so sad.
That one has some sting on it. Yeah. Like that was his last ever game.
Energy vampire.
It's super sad, man. Bob Uecker's sitting there thinking he's going to win the game, ninth inning. He's going to get a great call in his 90s. You don't get a lot of opportunities to get great calls in your 90s. And next thing you know, the polar bear, Pete Alonso, steals it from him. Can you give me a list, Jeremy, of the most famous home runs in Mets history? Because I think this might be a funny list. The choices are going to be, I think, 1969, and 1986, and that's it.
I'm looking at the top 4 home runs according to Metsmerized Online. And when we're talking about how clutch this one was, yeah, look, there have been bigger home runs. Joe Carter won a World Series. There's Aaron Boone. But what Pete Alonso just did has never been done. And you look at the Mets, they're number 1. Mike Piazza, the first game back after 9/11. So obviously a big moment.
That's huge.
Yeah, that was
big moment.
That was bigger. That's bigger.
Can't surpass it.
That's bigger.
Yeah.
Can't surpass it. Number 2, Francisco Lindor's home run last week.
No. You don't have 2 of the biggest home runs in franchise history in 1 week.
Number
It's
3,
impossible.
Wilmer Flores when he had been traded and then wasn't traded and was crying. And number 4,
big.
Bartolo Colon in San Diego.
Oh, come on. That was a huge one. That was a huge one.
big
But
one.
Pete Alonso's not a big deal.
Wilmer Flores can't be responsible for
9/11
the
one,
biggest
come on, what are we
anything in
doing?
history.
And Pete Alonso, number 2.
Also, like, can it be that great if it happens the same day that Kirk Cousins throws for 500 yards?
Oh, my God.
That's a good point.
No one's talking about that now.
All right, then let's talk about that since you guys are done with baseball. And I'm sorry to do this to you. I mean,
Major penalty, 5 minutes, high sticking.
Whoa!
Wow.
you're going to have to
What did he
leave
do?
because it was a great sports moment, and there's no reason to ruin the sports moment by wanting to talk about Kirk Cousins.
My only regret is that you didn't push that button like 10 minutes ago.
Wow.
So I could have missed this boring-ass conversation.
Oh, my God. I mean, Dan, if you think about it, the Falcons win last night in overtime. It wasn't really even that impressive because they were trailing. So what they did, I'm not
right about
impressed
that.
with Kirk Cousins coming back in overtime and winning that game at home against a division rival. I'm not impressed. It's not a big deal.
Well, were they trailing at the moment of the touchdown?
They were tied. It was overtime.
Well, then it doesn't count. If it was a tie game, it doesn't matter.
I think we should all be celebrating. Are you guys aware that we are right now beginning with last night 55 straight days of football? 55 straight days that have a football game in it. without anyone pausing to miss a football game for a single night. Does that mean we're going straight till Christmas? Like how much? 55 days?
Thanksgiving, Dan.
I'm going to watch every single one of them.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Did you know that we're about to play 55 straight football nights?
I have a stat of the day, Billy. If you may hit the music, please.
Well,
you got to give him a second, Jessica. You got to do. Jessica, come on now. Billy's in the big seat. You got to give him some time with that. He can't just get to
How
the
dare you, sir.
stat of the day music. I thought you were going to play the wrong music.
Why would I? Why would I?
Unpredictable over here.
Get out of here.
Start of the day. It is the start of the day. Start of the day. Start of the day. It is the start of the day. Start of the day. Start of the day. It is the start of the day.
Stat of the day from Doug Farrar on Twitter. Kirk Cousins' 509 passing yards is tied for 10th in NFL history for the most in a single game. Little bonus trivia, if you can name who he is tied with 509 passing yards in a single game in NFL history.
I'll guess Dan Fouts.
No.
Warren Moon.
Norm Van Brocklin.
Marino.
So Norm Van Brocklin has the record with 554 yards in a game in 1951, but he is not the 10th place tie with Kirk Cousins.
Norm.
That would be Vince Ferragamo of the Los Angeles Rams, who had 509 yards in 1982.
Are you familiar with Ferragamo? He's a bit of a sex symbol during his time. That name worked for him. He brought in the quarterback position as rock star with a name that people can laugh at many years later because he wasn't actually that good. Yeah. He wasn't that good.
He's in the history books, Dan.
No, but he
was tied for 10th in whatever that was.
Vince Ferragamo did not have a great career, but he had a memorable name and he had a
he
memorable
was very good
look.
looking.
Yes,
very good looking man.
I mean, so is Joe Namath.
Wow. Can you imagine him now? Vince Ferragamo
Yes,
playing
he's
for the LA
still alive.
Rams?
Yeah, he's Jimmy Garoppolo.
Oh.
It's the same thing. He wasn't a very good quarterback. I can't believe that he is that high on that list.
There's a lot of good names on this list.
He's a Hall of Famer. The Italian-American Sports Hall of Fame, but a Hall of Famer nonetheless.
Hell yeah.
Something that we didn't talk about yesterday, and this is my fault. I'm not sure exactly how it is that we didn't have time to get to this yesterday. I'm curious what Jeremy has for us on this. But the Marlins and their dysfunction, Stugotz, Mel Stottlemyre Jr., by consensus, is a great pitching coach. Nobody disputes this. And the big lead, among others, is writing, while the Mets and Phillies ready for what should be a classic NLDS, their NL East rivals, in quotes, in Miami, continue to embarrass themselves. And Buster Olney writes, the more that you hear about the breadth of the firings within the Marlins organization, from coaches to clubhouse attendants, the more cold-blooded it looks. Clear-cutting people who devoted their care and working lives to this business just reeks of administrative failure. After winning the Manager of the Year, Skip Schumacher, and I know nobody nationally cares about this team, but it's a special level of dysfunction and decades of it. to have the manager of the year and have him go into a lame duck season, at least in part because you run your business so poorly that now you're just running off all the coaches as well. And Billy, you're a Marlins fan. I don't know how you received yesterday, but nobody disputes that Stottlemyre is very good at his job, and nobody disputes that Schumacher is very good at his job. And so to run off the entire coaching staff as a business move, did it affect you?
Well, I think the Skip thing was different in that I think Skip spoke to them prior to the season, and they kind of came to this conclusion together, like, let's see how this goes. But it seemed like the writing was on the wall for Skip very early on.
Again, the God is writing on a Babylonian wall. Again, this is happening. The writing is on the wall for Skip Schumacher. But what about the rest of the coaches? This was it was a bit surprising that Stottlemyre was let go, no?
Him, yes, because he survived the previous managerial change because, as you were saying, he was viewed as one of the best pitching coaches in all of baseball. So, I mean, when there is new administrations coming in, they will bring in their new coaches. It's just interesting to see that they are not even giving the new administration the option of him or not. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know what their plan is, but it was described, the day before as a bloodbath is coming. So it seemed inevitable that there was going to be mass changes. I just don't know. It's hard to see the direction right now.
Are you numb to it?
Somewhat, yeah. Like once you let the defending manager of the year, just kind of walk away, and then you get rid of the best pitching coach in baseball, who's had incredible success, by the way. Like he has a great resume of what he's done just down here. It's not like he's done this on other teams. He's done it here. He has a Cy Young to his credit, right? So yeah, let's see who they bring in, but it's not like what are they building around right now? You know what I mean? Like it's just another rebuild again.
Mel is one of the best pitching coaches in baseball. His father was as well, and the pitching staff has nothing but the most amazing things to say about him as he turned guys like Ryan Weathers and Jesus Luzardo from disappointments who were high draft picks and had great stuff into legitimately good starting pitchers. The question on Mel that I haven't heard answered yet in the reporting, and maybe I'll try to find those answers, is was this a situation where they let him walk because he wanted to, or they dismissed him? Because Mel had flirted with leaving before, and Skip essentially convinced him to stay. Now that this was going to be another manager, another group of coaches, did he want to leave? They have continued discussions with John Jay and Luis Urieta, who is going to be interviewed for the managerial position. Danny Alvarez reported that this morning. But, this is another
Tony, you like how he said
slate.
that, huh? You like how
Jeremy
went. Jeremy,
look, man, I'm capable.
It's important. Look, I used to love the newscasts when I would listen to and watch them on television, and all of a sudden one of the incredibly American-looking anchors said "Los Sandinistas" with a flourish. So I appreciate what Tony was appreciating there, which is you really went and got the Latin flavor.
Because he could have gone like Urieta, which would have been like
Jake Arrieta.
Well, we've been doing queso all week also around here.
Yeah,
so.
That's because Chris Cody's been the one pronouncing it, and that's how instead of saying queso, he says it queso. But Jeremy, what is the distinction you're making? To me, it's a damning indictment either way. Whether you're firing what is a good coaching staff for a young people team that needs a good coaching staff, or they're fleeing because they don't want to work for you anymore. Like you're making a distinction as a correction, and both of them are pretty bad.
Not necessarily the rest of the coaching staff. This is just Mel Stottlemyre Jr. that I'm talking about, where he has enough respect within the organization that it's one of those things where, hey, look, if you want to go because we're getting rid of the rest of your coaching staff and you don't want to deal with a whole brand new group, feel free. Go find another program, another franchise that will appreciate what it is that you're doing. And I think that's a mistake. Like one way or another, whether they fired him or whether they let him walk, they should have been begging to keep him. That's a major mistake. They did let go of the rest of these coaches. And it's shocking, but it's also in some ways unsurprising that you have a roster one season that makes the postseason, and the next season you lose 100 games, and the players weren't all that different. So it's not shocking that you'd be getting rid of the majority of the coaching staff, except the reality is that we all know that Skip Schumacher is a great manager, and several of those coaches are good coaches. Had they just not lost their entire starting staff and not gotten any level of replacements from the front office, this season wouldn't have been as desperate as it was.
It's my biggest pet peeve in pro sports when things aren't going quite right or as right as it did last year. It's like you literally, I mean, these are the actions of someone who doesn't know what's wrong. They're like, we'll get rid of everybody. That way, everything, whatever the bad is, I don't know where it is, but it's not going to be here anymore because we got rid of everybody. But you're not really sitting there and say, wait, is he really part of the problem? No? All right, maybe we keep him. Maybe we keep him. Maybe we keep him. And like you guys said, maybe Skip Schumacher's like, I'm not going to be part of picking and choosing. Either you're riding with me and the people I select, or you're not. But there is this knee-jerk reaction that everyone's got to go. And I'm like, you didn't even identify what the issue was.
The core problem that this franchise has is that it's bad at the business of this. And so if the solve every time is we have to strip it down to nothing and tank in order to get the valuable draft picks that will fix it, you're playing a game a lot of other teams are playing, and you're playing it against teams that have money. So the Astros can make the playoffs 7 straight years after losing 100 games every season for 7 or 8 years. But if you keep having management turnover around that, none of these things are an actual solve or solution. It's not even a strategy. You can't get the business right, and therefore you can't get anything right.
I find this one particularly interesting because they hired a guy in Peter Bendix who's in his 30s, right? A young guy who has been told, hey, build it from the ground up. The issue was, hey, the minor league system is floundering with where it was left, and the major league team isn't quite good enough to be able to get by when that minor league system is so bad. So what does Peter Bendix do? He gets incredibly aggressive with trades throughout this entire season. He dismantles an entire roster that was in the postseason last year to build up a farm system and have not just the guys who are, 18, 19 years old who won't be here for years, but several 22, 23-year-olds, guys in AAA, guys who have already made it to the bigs, with the idea of you get a starting rotation back that's young, you add these guys, and you build from there. What he did throughout this season was clean house and start from scratch on the roster, and now he's doing it within the coaching staff to put in the guys he wants there. It's a question of, should Peter Bendix be given that level of power within this organization to build it all himself? You ask some people, they say, hey, he was part of the Rays. He had a philosophy. He wants to do that. You ask others, it's, hey, he hasn't proven anything to me yet. So why am I to believe this won't be just another Derek Jeter or somebody else?
Can I ask you guys a serious question? And I don't mean this to be as facetious as this sounds.
Are we sure about that?
Inter Miami won some serving dish trophy supporters cup thing, and no one in this town seems to care at all about that. And it could just be my circles. No one's talking about the fact that you have the greatest soccer player of all time playing for your team. He comes back, he scores multiple goals in multiple games. They just win a trophy that they've never won
Shield
before.
Trophy.
That looks like a serving dish, yes or no? Look at the picture.
A huge turnaround, and Messi, when he came back, had 2 goals in 4 minutes.
And 0 people in this town, at least in the circles that I'm talking about, and we work in sports, have any interest in
Just
this
Mike
whatsoever.
Fuentes.
No one's talking about this at all.
So they won the equivalent of the President's Trophy.
Yes, exactly. They won the Biden Cup, the soccer Biden Cup.
They won the Supporters Shield Trophy. The thing that I believe might be happening with Billy, I don't know, because you're more likely than anyone but Tony to be in these circles. English-speaking folks might not be talking about what Messi is doing in MLS. But I do hear all over South Florida Spanish-speaking folks talking about
this.
Okay. How many Spanish-speaking folks and just Spanish-speaking folks are you around?
I live
don't
in
know.
Westchester.
Yeah, I would think.
All of them.
Okay. Well, how many?
You have the greatest soccer player of all time playing for your hometown team, and you'd think this would be a big deal, like the Heat Big Three. Oh my gosh, look, we have greatness here that we're witnessing, and there's just, am I wrong?
You don't talk to your neighbors.
Is
though,
there
do
a
you?
buzz? Well, one side, the other side, no. But there's, I don't feel a buzz around that. Do you guys feel a buzz? Am I wrong about this entirely?
Aren't they 4 points away from being the greatest team in MLS history?
I don't know because no one's
Here we-
talking
here we
about
go
that. Like,
again.
if you're 4 points away, wouldn't everyone be excited about this?
Hold on, are they 4 points away on a Tuesday when the weather is 75 degrees and there's only 13 minutes left in the hour? Is it one of those
It's stoppage
stats?
time, yeah.
Okay. All right.
To be fair, I don't know what the Supporters Shield trophy is. Can you get me some information on the Supporters
it's the
Shield
best team
trophy?
in the league, most points.
It's like regular season, the best regular season team essentially is what they won.
Does Inter Miami have like a Magnum PI night or something? Like, why should I care?
Moving on to the football that people around here do care about. Put up on the screen here for me, please, Kirk Cousins. And you can choose whether you put him shirtless in chains on a plane as someone who has made a lot of money at that position without winning meaningful football games that we remember. Or you could just put him swag surfing on the stage because he had a monster night last night for the Falcons, and he's holding off Michael Penix. He's holding him off because he was hurt by the Falcons drafting his replacement after giving him a bunch of money, and this is very awkward swag surfing he's
so
doing
white.
there.
It is very, but Dan, how can you say that this game didn't mean anything against a division rival? Okay, you've been fighting tooth and nail this season to make sure that you're at the top of the division, so you can get a home playoff game eventually when you do get to the playoffs. You throw for 509 yards. The odds completely stacked against you. You throw for that many yards. You score in overtime. This is like people in Atlanta are going to remember this forever. Younghoe Koo, one of the greatest kickers in Atlanta history, maybe the greatest kicker in Atlanta history, nailed. What? He missed a couple. Doesn't matter though. He hit him when it counted.
He's won a couple of games this season.
They're going to remember this game forever.
Atlanta is going to remember this game forever. This is one of the biggest games in Atlanta history.
Tony, will Atlanta remember this game more than New York remembers?
I'm
going to
lose my mind.
Yes.
I'm going to say yes.
The
too.
time can you imagine people in Atlanta 20 years from now? You remember that time?
He might
that
be
Thursday
right.
night?
Look at the end zone paint scheme.
Oh my God.
Last night was special.
Atlanta was rocking last night.
Yeah.
500 yards.
Tony, I did not say that this game did not matter. I said that Kirk Cousins doesn't have many wins on his resume outside of that playoff win at New Orleans that you remember. Kirk Cousins doesn't have he's made a ton of money in this league without having victories you remember.
Can I, just for a moment, and I know this is going to upset a lot of people, maybe Jeremy, maybe not, because he's like a stat guy, whatever. Rating for the quarterback, it drives me crazy because yesterday Baker Mayfield had 180 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. His rating was 137.5. Kirk Cousins had 509 yards, 4 touchdowns. His rating was 114. You're telling me you watched that game and you're like, Baker was better? Get out of here.
Baker was great.
Nah.
Baker played awesome.
Baker watched a video of a Mike Tyson fight in his locker room apparently before the game to pump himself up. Did you guys see the broadcast talking about that? I imagine he also probably went through his tweets and was looking at all the mean Colin Cowherd and whatever else to get ready for it. And he was slinging it, all right? And also Kirk Cousins standing in the pocket, taking hits. He had a great game. It was a great Thursday night football game. And those are few and far between.
And I take that very personal. Anytime that Kirk has a good game, I take that very personal because it's like, look, guys, I told you. It was there. It's there the whole time.
We have some Baker stuff to get to. Let's get to this Tyson video that he was fired up about. Again, Tampa Bay with 1:44 seconds left, up 3, 1st and 10 at the Atlanta 28-yard line. It is very difficult to lose that football game when that's your situation. But let's check in with this Tyson video.
And then before the game tonight, he's getting himself all hepped up by looking at Mike Tyson videos.
He also, before the game, they kind of showed something that he was doing, which I'm not. Eli Manning started this trend where he tried out for Penn State football, and he was dressed up, and then it became like this whole character, and it was a whole thing.
Isn't Hulu doing an entire series on that?
With Glenn Powell. That's this whole Ted Lasso-fication of things, right?
But they
where
made
you
Glenn
have
Powell
a
not
commercial.
hot anymore.
What?
Well,
he was
what's
never
the point?
hot. I don't think he was hot. I think he
Glenn
had a
Powell?
Glenn Powell was definitely hot.
No, I mean the Eli Manning character. I thought you were saying that was his name, Glenn Powell.
No, Glenn Powell's the actor.
Okay.
That he's going to be in the show. Well, they did this thing kind of with Baker Mayfield, too, where Baker, instead of trying out for a team, like just walked around with the fans of Tampa Bay, and he was like just taking a tour of the facilities, whatever, and then he like has this knee brace, and he just kind of looks like a Tampa Bay resident, let's say. He just kind of looks like a pirate person, right? And then he unleashes one and throws one like 70 yards in the air. And I wanted to see it because I saw like on social, I saw like on Amazon, like quick clips. I'm like, oh, watch this, probably like a 5-minute piece. And then I track it down. It's like 32 minutes long, this video. Way too long. We need to tighten this up. Let's be real. I'm going to sit down and watch it. But I'd rather not watch 32 minutes of this situation.
Wait a second. He's just cosplaying Gardner Minshew?
He looks like
Kind
Minshew
of, yeah.
there. He looks like a Buccaneer. He doesn't look anything like Baker Mayfield. That's a good disguise. That's a good costume right up until he throws a football 70 yards. Chad Powers was the name of the Eli Manning character, and it is a television series. It's becoming something that that they're producing, but you didn't see the payoff because you didn't wait for the 30 minutes? Because this character, you're right, it does look like Tampa.
No, I saw this, and this is what made me want to go find the entire video. And then I sat down, and I was like, this is 33 minutes long. I need to finish editing God Bless Football. Like, we'll get to this tomorrow or something.
No, I'm with you, Billy. We don't need 30 minutes of that. We get it. You put on some makeup, you fool some people, and then you throw a football 70 yards, and everyone's impressed. But Dan, I think like this, it's dumb. It's a dumb thing. I hate it. And by the way, we moved on too quickly off the Mike Tyson thing. Hit the "Look at Me, Louie" button for Baker Mayfield.
Look at me, Louie.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have an extremely sensitive fraudulence meter. That's fraudulent behavior because every athlete I've ever seen in a locker room, when they're doing anything on their phone, how do they sit? They sit with their back to their locker and facing everyone else, and they watch whatever they're watching. This dude's going to turn around and put it so like, oh, did you guys notice what I'm watching a Mike Tyson video to hype my... Shut up. That's why your ass lost, because you were too busy doing gimmicks, trying to show off to people. This is you want to see how I hype myself up? I do it like this. I watch Mike Tyson fights. Ridiculous.
Bucky Irving also fumbled that ball, or else they would have won. There's a lot of things that weren't Baker's fault.
Nope. Him watching that video.
This Baker video of him dressed up, I'm assuming this happened like in the off season, right? And they just kind of like banked this and waited because like this takes a long time. Like he should be a lot busier during football season than to be, getting put up in makeup for 3 hours and then going and doing a tour for like another hour and a half, 2 hours. Like this seems like a waste of time. And then if this happened this week, which there's no way this happened this week, but if this happened this week, you kind of start wondering where his priorities are at, right? Just because they lost. If they won, it's like, this is perfect. Look at this guy, how he manages
They had
his
the
time.
game won.
Yeah.
And yet...
I don't know. I mean, he had a phone stand, so he had to put it somewhere. He didn't have a table in front of him.
You're watching. Just hold it in your hand like
Yeah.
every
Hold it in
other
your
person.
hand.
Roy.
They took that shot probably like 2 or 3 times. They're like, Bake, move your phone a little bit. We're getting a reflection here. Yeah, exactly right.
Tilt it a little bit higher, Okay, get your shoulder out the way.
Billy, I think you nailed it. I think they spent so long doing all the prosthetics and the wig and everything that they're like, we got to get our money's worth. This has got to have like 3 different like YouTube ads in the middle of it. We got to do pre-roll, post-roll. Like, we got to monetize this. We got to get our return on investment on this makeup artist because she was very expensive.
He looks great. I mean, look, far be it from me to say, but if he cut the hair a little bit, I think if I was Baker, I'd just go with this look most of the time. I think he looks better in character than he does as Baker
It's
Mayfield.
more Tampa. This look is more Tampa than the way he usually looks. You say no, Jessica? I don't. You're saying no to what Billy's saying.
You don't think he looks great?
It's a terrible look.
I think Baker looks great as he was made.
Yeah.
And I also think Glenn Powell, the whole appeal of Glenn Powell is he is a hot A-list guy. Why are we putting prosthetics on Glenn Powell and making him Chad Powers? He's hot. Let me just watch him be hot. That's why I saw Twisters in theater, because he's just hot.
It's to make people believe that he's a great actor, right?
Take that shirt off. Let me see them abs. Do that workout routine from the movie with Sydney. You know what I mean? Where he's on the beach and he's doing that thing where he's doing like the push-ups and then he's like doing like this move. You know what I'm talking about? You know that move where you do the push-up and then you bring the leg up while you're holding yourself up? We want to see that from old Glenny.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Is that a crunch? What is that?
It's an
that you're
oblique.
doing
Yeah,
there?
it's an oblique.
It's very hard to do.
Obliques,
Yeah, you're doing basically like a plank, and then you're like also bringing your leg up and touching your elbow. Oh, and he's doing that on the beach in sand while the waves are hitting him.
But like that's the go-to
Not
move.
the only one
right?
that was getting wet.
That's the go-to move, right? For the beautiful actor to make themselves ugly, to prove to you I'm a great actor.
Mickey Rourke spent the last 30 years of his life doing that. I mean, it was confusing to me. Mickey Rourke was beautiful and then went out of his way to be less beautiful in a way that was trying to be taken seriously.
Well, that's because he was a boxer. He got his face messed up.
Yeah.
Zac Efron, right? What's going on with his face?
He had a fall of some sort,
now
like
we
an
gotta
accident.
Be careful. Now we got to be careful.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
Pool situation.
I'm not buying that story.
All right, you've been a poo-pooer since you got in here today. Since you got in here today, you're coming after everyone and everything. You're bringing a real negative energy to this Friday.
Negative energy.
Yes, you're soiling everything. Everything that's positive, you're making it dark.
Because I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid like the rest of you sheep. That makes me negative, or does it make me someone who's positive about being independent and not falling?
Creative thinker.
There you go. Unique.
Raheem Morris is saying we don't need no Belichick. Right now, the Atlanta Falcons aren't thinking of what they missed out on with Bill Belichick. Again, this is not a sustainable thing the Falcons are doing, winning games this way, okay? Don't make that face at me when I told you they've had 3 games where they've got a 1% chance of winning, a 5% chance of winning, and a 24%
You know what that's
chance
called,
of
Dano?
winning, and they've won all 3 of them.
Bucking the odds. Yeah. That's what they do in Atlanta. The Dirty Birds buck the odds.
Buck them.
How many times did that happen, Jeremy? Look at
Nuck if you buck.
You mentioned this.
Prime
Can you
mom.
guys get for me the Harry Douglas in a bathroom, in an airplane bathroom going crazy sound, please? I want to play Harry Douglas, who was so excited about Nuck If You Buck that he was going crazy in an airplane, kind of trying to be quiet, but also being kind of loud. The former Falcon that I associate for going after that Homer radio host in Atlanta.
Harry Douglas ain't nothing.
Let's go ahead and play Harry Douglas last night after the Falcons end up winning that football game somehow.
I told y'all, baby, on SportsCenter this morning. Peace up, 8 times down. Bangkok. I'm on the airplane. I'm in the restroom. I don't give a damn. Bangkok. Kirk Cousins over 500 yards passing. Let's go. Division leaders. I'm tired. I don't care. I was at the game at halftime. Had to leave after Matt Ryan celebration. I'm on the plane right now here in San Francisco. Bangkok.
What do you think the flight attendant's thinking here?
I'm unclear on where he is exactly. Is he in the bathroom or
Big-ass
outside
bathroom.
of the bathroom?
Huge bathroom.
He's sitting on the turlet.
No, he's not.
He's sitting on the turlet, and the phone is on the door.
Really?
I think so, because that's a reflection.
But he's got so much
It's
space to
gotta
the
be
left,
a big
though.
plane. I was on an A220 last week, and I had to tinkle, and I barely fit inside that bathroom. It was so tiny. This must be a 380, a Dreamliner. I don't know what kind of plane this is, but huge bathroom.
Tony, I feel like this is a question for you, because I think you might agree with me on this. When I get on an airplane, I get on an airplane. Yeah. I don't know the name of the airplane. I don't know the nickname of the airplane. I don't know the religion of the airplane. I just get on an airplane. I sit down in my seat. Does it have 3 seats on this side and 2
buckle it
on
up.
this side? 1 on this side, 2 on this side? Is there a random middle section here with 3 or 4
Oh,
seats?
sorry,
in the
I
middle?
have hobbies.
No, I just sit on the airplane and I hope that we get to where we get. You close your eyes and you pray the rosary and you say, hopefully we land.
I used to do that until.
Then when you land,
you always applaud.
You got to. Because that's the thing about air flight. It's a mystery. How does it work? No one knows. You
It's
take
heavy as
off, you
hell,
land.
but yet it flies.
Exactly right.
Science. That's what it is.
Nah, I don't know.
I don't think it's no one knows, although I too am
Do you?
amazed by a tube in the sky. Nope.
Nope. See,
but
no Just
like cruise ships,
I'm
Dan, they
not
weigh
the barometer for
10
whether
trillion
anyone
pounds.
And they're so
knows.
tall. How don't they tip over? from one
Exactly
side? Who
right.
knows?
And
It's crazy.
they
A
haul
floating
ass, too.
building. Oh, yeah.
Read a physics book, Balthazar.
I and we are very proud of what Billy and Stugotz are doing with God Bless Football. It is a brand that has a lot of fun and covers football differently than mostly everybody who's covering football. You've got Stugotz, and you've got the internationally ranked 4th everywhere in the world football insider, the Duke, Billy Gill. And for the first time, they're trying something that seems difficult and is going to wear them out this weekend because they're doing a live stream, and they're doing it not in traditional studios with people around, and they're going to be with Matt Forte. So tell me about what you guys are doing Sunday. And I imagine, Billy, given your general neuroses and the amount of work that this takes, that this is a bit of a stressful situation.
It's going to be fun. We're going to have fun. This Sunday, come check us out. Joe's on Weed in Chicago, 12 o'clock Central Time, 1 o'clock Eastern Time. If you're going to follow
during
along
the games
on YouTube, during the 1 o'clock Eastern slate of games, and also Chicago's playing at the same time. They're playing against the Panthers, a big one out there.
What kind of surprises
Chicago.
do you have for people who tune in on video? They wouldn't be
we
surprised.
have legends, Dan.
I can't say anything.
We could say one thing. We have a legend showing up at Joe's on Weed.
Matt Forte.
Yeah, Dan said Matt Forte is going to be there already.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Was he the legend?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it could have been like other legends.
Well, it's not
you know Matt Forte is going to be there, but then I say legend, then you're like, oh, who could be there?
Yeah,
it's
but
like Matt Forte.
don't. Hold on a second. Hold on.
Now people are going to expect Jay Cutler.
Hold on.
We do promos better than anyone.
Guys, we're not promising you people that are not going to be there. Let's just clear that up right now.
Legend,
we're not going to say, hey, we're going to do this and then not do it. A legend will be there, Matt Forte. But we're going to not add an S on that, because if another legend doesn't appear, then you're not
But if
sitting
Rex
around
Grossman
where's-
shows up, you're going to let him in, right?
Oh, yeah. If anyone shows up, you're going to be let in.
Give him Mike, too.
Yeah.
When you guys say
21 and older.
a legend,
If anyone
it sounds like you're saying alleged, and I would allege the Bears don't have a lot of legends.
Stugotz is alleged going to show up. Does that work?
Yes, that
Does
does
that
work.
Also, by the way, a big weekend, because I believe there's also an MMA hangout that's going to be happening the day before.
That's right.
And I believe that you can still go watch the MMA, possibly.
So we've got UFC 307. We've got Alex Bejeda versus Khalil Roundtree in a banger of a main card. Salt Lake City, which has had some really good cards. There's still tickets available. And you know what I use to get tickets, boys? Game Time. Hey! Oh, Game Time. The cool thing about Game Time is you can look on the app, right? And then pick a seat, and then it'll show you the exact view of where you're. How do they do it? How do they do that? What technology do they have that I can sit in the seat and then see my view from said seat? It's incredible.
It's called cameras.
AI.
I think it's AI.
If
You're
I
right.
don't know what it is, I just say AI.
That's
you guys do that, right?
I like that.
What is that? AI.
Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code DAN for 20% off, $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it?
Game time.
Game Time. Thank you. UFC 307 MMA Hangout starting at 10. We're also kind of be watching two things. We got Miami Cal at 10:30, late kick for the boys. Plus, we got MMA Hangout starting at 10. A banger of a main event, Khalil Roundtree versus the champ, Alex Bejeda.
Dan, I've got a complaint I'd like to lodge. All week long, we've been promoting this event that Billy and Stugotz are going to be in Chicago. Everyone's excited. It's a great event. I wish I could go. But every time they talk about it, and Matt Forte will be there, Jeremy, in my ear, says a stupid, lazy Forte pun. Every single, and it's a different one every time, but it's always such and such is not their forte.
Got a minor penalty, 2 minutes for ruining comedy.
Yes,
Who was this for? This was me showing restraint. I'm just doing it.
No,
in a
you
mean
do
ear.
this to all of us. You're in all our ears,
Yeah.
and it's unpleasant. All the
Fair.
puns,
All right.
on air, off air, it's unpleasant.
If I may make a slight correction, Dan, all the Bears have are legends, and all they have are players from 1985.
Yeah, I should have said this century. They
Sweetness, Dano?
The factory line
Mike
on.
Ditka?
You're fair enough, Jim
Gary
McMahon.
Fensick.
Yes, fair enough. You're right. That
The
one,
fridge?
Rick
that
Barry.
one
Mike
team.
Fisher?
Singletary.
Yes, that one team. Jeff Fisher. That one team did have legends.
Peanut Tillman?
He's right about Jeff Fisher.
Legends was their forte.
What?
That's-
You can't stop doing
Unbelievable,
that
man.
shit,
that
man.
to himself.
Unbelievable how loose you are with that thing, and you only use it for your jokes. It's
Super Bowl Shuffle.
we're supposed
Legendary.
to be careful with that thing. I wanted to get to a couple of things with you guys because political bumper stickers are on my mind. I don't understand ever and will never understand people who do that.
It's like, what are we doing? I was in traffic the other day, and I look over, and it doesn't matter who you're voting for. It doesn't matter who the person is. At the end of the day, the election's going to be over. They're either going to not get the post or they're going to get the post, and then you're going to sit there with a loser on the back of your car or winner, but still it's like, oh, okay, now the election's over. Let me go sit there with a razor blade and like scratch this thing. Dan, have you ever tried to take a bumper sticker out of a car?
Yeah,
it's
off of
impossible.
You got to scrape it off. It's not impossible, but it's annoying.
Dude, I saw this was maybe
especially in the heat of South Florida.
Maybe like 8 or 9 years
Especially
ago.
with Dan's custom paint job.
Maybe 8 or 9 years ago, but I saw a Dole Kemp bumper sticker, and I was like, "Come on, guy, give it up."
He hasn't been able to take it off for 40 years.
It
That's
was
the issue.
weathered. It was all gray. Like it started out as being blue and red. Which, by the way, brings me to another thing. We gotta have a new rule. You got to color code this shit. You cannot do blue and red, and I'm supposed to guess which side you are. All the posters, all the bumper stickers. If you're one party, be red. If you're the other party, be blue. Let me just know.
But they do have that.
No, they don't.
It's the majority color, though. If it's more blue, you know who you voted for.
No, I'm telling you, man. At least in Arizona, around my house, because you got like city
trying to trick
comptroller,
you.
and I'm like, and I try to guess from the buzzwords that they have there. It's like strong family values. I think you might be Republican.
For
it's
city comptroller, though?
It's crazy.
Strong family values.
County recorder, or whatever. Like there's all these. By the way,
Why does the party of the county recorder matter?
I don't know, and I don't know what job that is. There's so
School
many,
board.
There's so many. Well, at least I know what the school board does, and also that one is political as well. Go figure. But so many of these positions, what do you do? Why am I asked to pick who should be the next person who does like this thing that I have no idea what it is?
Now imagine city recorder, but a bumper sticker on like a Nissan, and you're like, well, what's the point of this? You're a dork. You have a political bumper sticker, you're a dork.
That probably
Sorry.
is the city recorder with that bumper
Yeah,
sticker.
family member.
No, they have it
Has
wrapped
to be.
probably.
It's just that guy.
It was Jack
Vote for
Kemp.
me.
It was Jack Kemp's car that I was behind that had the Dole Kemp sticker. He's still holding on.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju. All of these. If you have a political bumper sticker, are you a dork? Do you know what a comptroller does? And is it harder to get a bumper sticker off a car that's been in the heat for a decade?
It just stays there. It's impossible to take off. My neighbor, once upon a time, had a bunch of those, like Reagan Bush 84, and I was like, okay, it's been 30 years, and he hasn't been. You can see the part where he's been trying to take it off.
Get a new car.
It's like an old school retro van. This was way back in the day, though. Like,
I'm gonna say this though, Tony. At least Reagan Bush 84. That's like
stood for something.
So yeah, it was a huge blowout win. Like you got like that one, you can puff your chest out, walk around about. Remember that time Walter Mondale got his ass handed to him? Yeah, we'll never forget that day. But when you got Dole Kemp, come on, bro.
Or like McCain Palin, it's still there. And you're like,
Ross Perot.
I feel like we've hit so many buzzwords. We're about to talk about Iran-Contra. We've talked about the Sandinistas. We've talked about Reagan. Like, what's next?
20 CB.
We're actually going to segue to something that Nick Saban said. I don't know if you guys saw this, but it is the strongest that he has ever said this. He was walking with Kirk Herbstreit on one of those casual walk-and talks that made to appear as if they don't know the cameras are there. And one of the things that he said is that if he had gotten Drew Brees and Drew Brees had passed the physical, that he would have remained happy in Miami. And a lot of people know that. He has said that part before. What he hasn't said before is that Brees was ready to go and failed the physical. And this is what he said of the doctor. He said the doctor didn't know his ass from a handful of sand. I think that was Danny Cannell's dad, I believe, was the doctor. Can you guys look that up? Because I haven't heard that expression before. And I was surprised to see him take out a doctor like that. But the understood that he would feel this way because Drew Brees, he then pointed out, that Drew Brees played 15 more years, won a Super Bowl, and this is the one that he mentioned that made me think something particular. And he said, Drew Brees got 9 Pro Bowls. And I'm like, oh, Saban's been thinking for a while about what he would have been in the pros. Saban's been thinking about that one for a minute because he failed in the pros and he had to go back to college. And the reason he failed is because he didn't get Drew Brees. They were 9-7. But when he mentioned the number of Pro Bowls that Brees had, it made me know, oh, that dude's actually been thinking about the fact that he never succeeded in the pros the way that he wanted to.
What kind of pull did Nick Saban have? Because if he felt that way about the doctor, maybe you have a little pull to, overrule him in this situation?
I don't think you can overrule a failed physical, can you? Although he did say he went to see Dr. James Andrews where the surgery was and that Andrews cleared him. I don't think a coach can overrule a physical, though. I was just surprised to see him take out the doctor that way.
You don't typically see that. You always, technically, yes, Dan, some people could be like, to hell with the physical, we're doing it anyway. But typically, you listen to your medical people and you trust them and you go. But then I also want to point out, you think that Saban's been thinking about it, and I think that they're walking with a camera crew, and he probably says, and Drew Brees went to a bunch of Pro Bowls. So, cut. Hey, how many Pro Bowls did he go to? 9? Okay, I'll count you in. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, and he goes to 9 Pro Bowls. Ooh, he's really been thinking about it. No, man, this is the magic of television editing.
Well, the Dolphins as a team, as a franchise, must have had bad luck with doctors because O.J. McDuffie sued the team over, I guess, what would be them trotting him out there with a bad toe, right?
Yeah, that was, I believe, Cannell. Can you guys look that up for me?
Oh, and Tua, by the way.
I mean, you're wrong about this. There's no way that was edited in order for him to come up with the 9 Pro Bowls so that he could get the stat right. That's not what happened.
I wish I lived life with your wide-eyed, childlike optimism. You just want to believe everything that you see on the internet, everything you see on TV. Like, this is it. This is the most authentic version. I wish I had that. I can't. Dan.
Why would Nick Saban lie in a way that's favorable to his legacy? It's so weird. Danny Cannell's doctor was on the team of doctors, it says online. Yeah, so it was a team of doctors that came to this.
So it wasn't necessarily him specifically that was the one that didn't know.
Well, he's saying that doctor didn't know his ass from a handful of sand is what he's saying.
I think that might be like a Greg Codyism that we are attributing to Nick Saban because that might be something that he made up because obviously you don't know his ass from a hole in the ground is kind of what you usually get, but full of sand, handful of sand, we don't find that anywhere.
I Googled ass from a handful of sand idiom, and all that came up were pictures of butts. And specifically, free pick, premium photo, woman's ass with sand, female buttocks, sand photos. So
what is
this, Magnum? This is the work computer, so, my bad.
You can stop doing that. Thank you. Why did you come in here today? Let's find the sound for me, Billy, please, of Michael Irvin. I think he was sitting next to Warren Sapp. This is the glory days of the NFL Network, where Michael Irvin is going crazy on set. Michael Irvin has been great at television for a long time, and he's just shouting about how we were losing recipes. And Amin came in here today saying we're losing a recipe, and I didn't know what he was talking about.
Oh my God, this is what's wrong with today. The young ladies today, they're not learning from mom how to cook. We're losing recipes.
He's right, though. Women, they're going to work instead of learning how to cook.
Do you want to play a game called Guess What He Was Talking About? Because I looked up the context to see what he was talking about.
He wasn't talking about women. He was talking about something like football related.
Can I guess, Billy?
Yeah.
Was he talking about the Colts?
He was talking about the Colts. Good context clue there.
Was that on screen? Okay, I didn't see that. Yeah. I wasn't looking. That's my bad. What? Okay, tell me.
He was talking, I believe this is when Peyton Manning was released or Peyton Manning was injured and there wasn't a quarterback learning under Peyton Manning. He was just being pushed out. So this was a situation of no one's learning from Peyton Manning, same as women aren't learning recipes from their mom. We're losing recipes.
Curtis Painter would like a word.
Dan, he's right, though. We are losing recipes. Because they're no, I'm telling you.
Let my boy cook.
Yes, I wish.
He has a recipe.
I have the recipe. I do. This is something, as a father of a child who's going through AU basketball and going to tournaments and going to practice at these big gyms that have like 17 courts. And I've noticed this, and it's not just basketball, it's volleyball as well. And it's not just kids. Some of these are young adults as well. Dan, you played pickup ball. Tony, you played pickup. We've all played pickup ball at some point in our lives. There's multiple courts. You're shooting, the shot bricks, it goes, long rebound into another court where a game is going on. What do?
Oh, my bad.
You yell, ball, ball. And so that no one's running and trips over this ball, gets your ball, gets it back, we're all back. I'm sorry for cussing. When I fucking tell you.
You didn't have to cuss.
You could have avoided it.
You don't apologize for the cussing before you've done the cussing. Just don't do the cussing.
I'm letting the people know what they have the kids in the car, put the earmuffs
Well, you
on.
think they tossed their kids out the window in those 2 seconds? What are we talking
Spoiler
about
alert on the
here?
cursing.
Look, it's not hard. None of them do it. They will literally just let it dribble into the play and just quietly kind of just walk over. Sometimes they don't even come. The volleyball people are the worst because they practice spikes. It goes there. They don't even try to retrieve it. Forget about yelling ball. They don't even try to retrieve it. There's just volleyballs running all over the court. And I'm just trying to wonder what generation didn't learn to yell ball.
They hit you with a little help?
A little help?
Any of that? No?
Nothing.
Wow.
Nothing.
That's fascinating because I can tell you which demographic does yell ball, and it's the 70-year-old pickleballers. But I wonder if the 20-year-old pickleballers are yelling ball when the pickleball scoots across
I'm guessing no, because that happens also with soccer. Sometimes we get like indoor soccer. And again, these are adults. I see beards. I see people with like bellies and stuff. Like you guys aren't 20 or 22 or whatever. They're like in their 30s. They don't say ball. And I'm like, what? Like I go crazy. Like I sometimes as a parent sitting on the sideline, when I see the ball, I say ball, and then, hey man, yell it out next time. I'm talking to people's children now. I'm worried.
Whose fault is that, though? It's got to be taught. It's got to be, is it the fault of the generation that should be teaching the next generation how to be polite in that circumstance? That has to be learned. It's not, to shout ball is something that I learned after hearing it from somewhere.
That's the thing. You start going to older games where they're like 14 years old and you're playing against guys that are 16, 17, 18, and then you start picking up things that they do. It feels like this generation has just been siloed playing with their same age group. Wow. And nobody's taught them. The older generation hasn't been there to actually be the one giving them the chicken wing, being like, this is how you defend somebody in the post. When the ball goes out to the other court, you say ball. It feels like we lost that.
I hate to say this, but you sound like an old man.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
He's a decent.
That's what I hate to say. I hate to say
That's what it is.
I feel like
he hated to say it. I mean,
on top of recipes, we've lost decency. I feel like that person should be shunned from society. Not forever, maybe just for like a week.
Billy.
Like you shun them from society. I wish there was another Australia out there where you could shun people to. You know what I mean?
Antarctica.
Billy, what you're talking about is Thanos level shunning.
Okay,
because it's millions of them that are all doing this. It's not like 2 or 3.
Can I tell you a moment that I had just last week in which I was dealing with someone who's lost decency, and I almost decided to escalate the situation, but I was talked down from it. And some people might call me a rat in this situation had I followed through, but I chose not to partake in it because I was told that karmically I would not prosper if I did such a thing.
Wow.
Here's what happened. I have two young children, and as a result, I sometimes benefit from the great little dangling stroller parking thing that you can put on your rearview mirror. So, like, you have, like, the decal, and there's, like, a special spot where you can park. You don't know about this?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You guys
What
don't
is
know about
that?
this?
Guys, yes, you do.
Hold on a second.
You know,
like, there's
stroller parking.
There's like there's a handicap decal that hangs, like the blue one.
Yeah.
All right, so there's one when you have like a newborn young children that's a green one that hangs, and then there are spots that are painted green. Yeah. And this is
Where?
a thing. That's
Flanagan's?
the thing.
Everywhere.
That's a thing. They've disappeared. Yeah. So you never really benefited. There's like a big moment in like I want to say like early 2000s where they were everywhere. And it was almost like I feel like some people were having kids just to park closer, right? Because they were everywhere at the time. Now they've been replaced with electric vehicle parking and more handicap parking and all this stuff, right? But I was excited when my first one was born because I said, you know what? I can now benefit from this parking spot I've only seen before. I've never been able to park there. They've all, lo and behold, disappeared. But there's one place that still has one, and someone mentioned it. It was
Flanagan.
Well, actually, it wasn't a Flanagan.
They paint it pink in October?
It was yes. But this was like a sports grill, and this is a very tiny parking lot, and I'm pulling in, and there's never parking in this thing, and I said, I got my best friend over here. This little parking decal here that I never use. I used it one time that I can remember, or twice. But one time I used it, I was going to Michael's to buy my wife a Mother's Day present on behalf of my daughter. Yeah. And a cop came and knocked on my window while I was sitting in the car and said, you know, you can only park in this spot if you have a kid in the car. And this is the most defiant I've ever been. I turned at said officer, and I rolled down the rear window, and I said, "Kids in the car." And then they apologized to me. And this is the most defiant I've ever been. But in this scenario, I pull into the parking lot, and someone pulls into the child's, parking thing. And I see no decal, and I go, maybe they're going to put it up, whatever. And this person gets out and then either leaves children in the car, which I wouldn't recommend, or never had children to begin with in this car, and then goes on to do their business. And I was livid. I was like, I can't believe this. I never use this spot. There's no parking now. I have to walk around with all my children, all this stuff. And then I start looking around. I go, I see over there a tow truck company sign for what goes on here if we're parking illegally.
Oh no!
I think I may make a little call to the tow truck company and see what happens here. See what happens here.
Oh no!
And then my wife talked me off the ledge, and she said, "Don't do that. The karma's going to come back and get you. That's not a good idea." So then I said, "Okay." I let it go, but I was stewing. And then I had to go, and this is a situation where there's like parking behind the building, but it's like a weird U-shape. So I park behind the building, I do all this stuff, and then when I'm getting out of the car, I'm still steaming because I have 2 children that I need to get, and now I need to walk next to this busy intersection here to go get this food and all this stuff, right? And I start looking, and I'm looking around, and she knows what I'm doing. I'm looking to see if I could find a notepad. And I was about to write a note.
What?
And then she said, "Don't do that. Just let it go. Let it go." So I did let it go, and I went in, and we ate. But I will tell you this. That spot was right in front of the restaurant where I was eating, and I had my eyes locked on that car to see exactly how long that car was there. Because it was like a quick pickup thing, like we're picking up donuts, we're picking up froyo, something like that. Like, I could let it go. That car was parked there damn near an hour and a half.
Minor penalty, 2 minutes, rambling.
Who?
My bad, I'll go.
Sorry,
you were
Jess.
saying.
Well, I was going to ask Billy, when you saw him get out the car and didn't bring kids out, why did you... Hey, pal. Hey, pal.
That was a woman. I didn't want to scream at the woman. But
Yeah. Misogyny.
Billy's wife, instead of, I don't know the rest of you, but going toward a fight, when you go toward a fight and your wife...
And she's a warm-blooded Latina woman, so
holds
she's
you back.
feisty. She talked me down.
Your wife tells you not to call a tow truck and not to write a note. That's the equivalent of Billy's wife holding him from a fight.
Holding him back. Hold me back.
Yeah, telling him not to write a note. I was curious your thoughts on this Christine Brennan situation. She is a legendary sports columnist. She came up with me in the business and had to do a good deal of fighting in a caveman world to get it where it is that she's gotten to. And now she's working on a Caitlin Clark book. And she has run afoul because of the amount of questions that she's asking about Caitlin Clark, and not quite delicate enough about sort of some of the race and culture stuff happening in the WNBA that is making Caitlin Clark such a polarizing figure. And she's wandering around asking all of these black players in what has been a league built by black players. She's asking nothing but Caitlin Clark questions because she's writing a book. And they're objecting to some of the questions and how they're framed. And she was just on Sarah Spain's podcast, and she's not really listening to the objections. She's doubling down on, this is how I've always done this job. This is how you write a book. And she's not listening with a careful ear to the objections of how she's doing her job. She's doing it a bit defiantly, and she's doing it a bit defiantly as a pioneer who has earned her defiance. But the game has changed a little bit. I mean, like what's happened here and what she's walking into isn't the world where books have been written before, and she's walking into the center of a culture war. And the way that she's handling what is the objection of black players telling her, hey, the way you're doing this doesn't feel right to us, is to lean right into it as this is how I do my job.
Yeah, Sarah Spain's interview with her was really, really good. So if you haven't really been following Christine Brennan's coverage throughout the entire WNBA season, including her coverage around Caitlin Clark not being on the Olympic team, is something that people have around women's basketball have been talking about for most of the season. So then last week she asks DeJounte Carrington if she intentionally or not hit Caitlin Clark in the face during a playoff game, and then follows up by asking her if her and Marina Mabry were laughing about her hitting Caitlin Clark in the face later on in the game. And that was sort of like the breaking point. Like it was, I think a lot of people that were kind of new to the story thought that that was the only thing that people were upset with. But I think going back a few months, like her coverage of Caitlin Clark has been something that people have taken issue with.
That's the last drop in a bucket that
Exactly.
makes the bucket overflow.
And it was particularly egregious because players in the WNBA, especially black players, have been getting harassed to an insane amount this season, especially regarding incidents around Caitlin Clark. There was an incident earlier this summer we talked about with Kennedy Carter where the Chicago Tribune editorial board called for her to be charged with assault for a foul during a basketball game. Like, this has been a narrative throughout the season that has been perpetuated by a lot of people on the internet that Christine Brennan then sort of brought into the locker room by asking this question before Game 2, after Game 1 of this playoff series. And so it sort of blew up from there. The WNBA PA doesn't want her to be credentialed moving forward. So she goes on Sarah Spain's podcast to sort of defend herself, which I will give her credit for going on a podcast and answering really tough questions about what happened, because she didn't come off well. She basically conceded nothing. It doesn't seem like she really understands why people are upset with her. She, like you said, Dan, she's claiming asking questions is the job of a journalist. And Sarah's saying asking questions that feed a racist narrative and stereotype about players is actually, it's creating harm. And as we all know, journalists, one of the tenets of journalism is to minimize harm, is to not put people that you're covering in the line of fire and to create more of a problem. Because at this point in the season, most people, the vast majority of people are not watching that play and thinking that was an intentional foul. She meant to hit her in the face. This is just a thing that a lot of trolls are saying that then a reporter is asking and confronting a player about.
Well, and I think the important thing to note is it's not just a reporter. It's someone who is writing a book about Caitlin Clark. And so, yes, it is your job to ask tough questions. And sometimes those tough questions are interpreted as, hey, you're putting me in harm's way. Like, hey, I'm just asking a question. But the thing I find objection was it's a lot of leading questions. That's not journalism. A leading question. She's asking questions in a way to get a specific answer. And again, not because she's writing a column, she's writing a book. So she's got a narrative in mind as far as the book she's writing, and she's trying to get the content and the reactions and the stuff so that it fits with what she has in mind. Having said all that, I don't think she should be uncredentialed. And I think there is an element, there's a lot of forces at play here, right? One of them is leading questions. One of them is there are people who are big Caitlin Clark fans, and by fans, air quotes, I mean they just discovered this white wonder and now they are fully charged in just championing this without even being people who watch the game at all. But then there's another thing that's going on, Dan, which is I've noticed as an outsider, there's a sensitivity around the WNBA towards the outside. It's like, well, you're not part of this cool clique who does this. I'm not defending Christine Brennan, but what she's saying when she said, look, I go into NFL locker rooms and I talk to people and I never have these issues, which there is an element of truth to that. Man, y'all seem to be really upset. Like, oh, First Take, I can't believe they talked about it that way. Like, they talk about everything dumb. Welcome to the big time.
I think this is the problem though is that people swooping in to cover a player without covering a league are going to have a very different approach than people that cover and understand the league and understand the actual welfare of the players and understand that players this season in particular have received a toxic amount of harassment, not just on the internet but in-person harassment as well. And that's something that if you're covering any player in the league, you should be cognizant of that and not put players in harm's way or continue to perpetuate narratives that aren't true because you saw some tweet on the internet or whatever it was that sparked her to do this. Another thing, I really encourage people to listen to Sarah's podcast because it's really, really good. And it's an hour long and every minute of it was great. She asked her some really tough questions, but was totally fair with her. But Christine Brennan said in this interview with Sarah Spain, it's a free country 4 or 5 times. And I think if you have to say it's a free country 4 or 5 times when you're defending yourself, you've lost the argument. And that was my main takeaway. I never say it's a free country. You've lost.